was Larry playing basically what Bob Dylan played on Don't Think Twice. I noticed that some of the chords look pretty difficult, especially that F chord that he's playing, and then he's taking his thumb and wrapping it around. I'm going to be honest, that might be a little bit over some of the people's level here on this channel. So what I've decided to do is we're going to take this first lesson, we're going to do a simplified version of the song so at least you could be able to play it. And if you want to get that sheet music, just go right here and download the sheet music. You'll also be prompted to join my VIP group list, and this way I could mail you the sheet music, lessons, tablature, everything. Everything's for free over there on that site. So just go ahead and download that and come on back. And so what I want to do first is let's open up the sheet music and let's take one chord at a time. All right, the first thing we're going to need is a capo, and Bob Dylan was capoed 4 with this and playing in the C position. So I hope you guys have a capo, and we're going to put it on 4. We put this capo just below the frets, just like we would if we were playing a note here. You don't want to be right on the top of the fret because that will mute the strings, and you want to be just below the fret with the capo, okay? So just below the fret. And he's playing in the he's playing a C position chord, and he's capoed up 4. All right. Technically, this song's in the key of E because this would be a C, this would be a D, and this would be an E. So we're in the key of E, but we're going to be writing out the capoed chords, as I call them. Okay. So when you're looking at the sheet music, the first chord is a C. That means this right here. All right. Now the good thing about the capo is, if you were to play a C chord down here, you could see that the frets are wider. There's a lot of space in between the frets. And as we go down the neck here, or up the neck rather, you could see that it's easier. You don't have to stretch as much. Over here you've got to stretch the C chord, and over here it gets a lot easier. So that's one of the advantages of the capo, is it's a lot easier to play. The capo also presses down on the strings and makes the action, or the distance between the strings, less, and it makes it easier to play. All right, so that's the cool thing about a capo. Plus, the capo also helps with just if you want to locate a key to sing in. If it's too high, you could just move the capo and still play the same chords. I hope that makes sense. So we're in the key of E, we're playing out of the C position, and the first chord is a C chord, okay? I have extensive lessons on that. If you want to get the extensive lessons right there to learn the C chord from the ground up. But suffice it to say that this is the standard C chord and the most used chord in this song because it's in this key. So the C chord is 1 fret up on the 2nd string with our index finger, and 2 frets up on the 4th string with our middle finger, and 3 frets up with our ring finger on the 5th string. And it's important to keep your thumb in the right position so that your fingers are arched properly. And if you're having trouble with this chord, it's probably due to arching. You're going to find it a lot easier than having to do this, okay, because it's not as much of a stretch. So that's the first chord. We're going to work on just the chord forms first. So I hope you have your guitar with you. Why don't you try that chord with me, okay? Try a C chord, all right? And I'm just going to strum through starting on the 5th string, and it sounds like this, okay? That's measure 1. Measure 2, and this is the intro part right here. I'll go over this first. No singing on this part. The G chord that's listed there is a 1-fingered G chord, and we're just simply taking our ring finger and we're moving it over to the 6th string. Okay, so we're going from this chord and we're just taking these fingers off and moving to the 6th string, 3 frets up with our ring finger, and we're playing that chord. So measure 3, we have an A minor 7th chord, and that's a really easy chord. It's 2 fingers. It's 1 fret up with our index finger on the 2nd string, and 2 frets up with our middle finger on the 4th string. It's just like a C chord, except we're taking our ring finger off the 5th string, 3 frets up, okay, and like so. So that's A minor 7th chord that we're going to be using, a little substitute chord here. Now the 4th measure, we have the dreaded F chord. And Larry was playing it like this. What he was doing is he was taking his thumb and he was forming an F chord like this, an F major 7th chord. And then what he was doing is he was taking his thumb and he was wrapping it around the 6th string, 1st fret on the 6th string with his thumb. All right, and that's great. You got a nice bass note there for this song. But we're not going to do that. We're going to use a 2-fingered F chord, and let me show you that first. It's 1 fret up with our index finger on the 1st string, and 3 frets up with our ring finger on the 4th string. Just 2 fingers, all right? And that chord is called an F sus2 chord. Very pretty chord. And it's not what Bob Dylan played. Bob was probably playing this chord that Larry was showing, but we're going to use that as a substitution. Try that with me. And we're going to get into the picking pattern and the changing the chords in a little bit, but I want to get you acclimated with this first. The next chord is a C chord on measure 5. We know that. We know the G chord, hopefully. And measure 7 is C, measure 8 is C. So that covers most of the chords except for measure 21. We have what's known as a D7 sus2 chord. Very easy chord to play. 1 fret up with our index finger on the 2nd string, and 2 frets up on the 3rd string with our middle finger. That's a D7 sus2 chord. All right, nice substitution. It's not what Bob played, but I think he was wrapping his thumb around again to get that bass note, but we're not going to do that in this lesson. So that covers basically all the chords. And what we want to do now, let's just go 1 measure at a time real slow, and we're going to work on the chord and the picking pattern together. This whole song on the right hand is using a pattern called thumb over thumb, and it's a very easy pattern. If you haven't learned that already in the last set of lessons that I gave with Larry and myself, just go right over here, click on that link. So let's go and take 1 measure at a time. Measure 1 is the C chord, and we're picking strings 5, 3, 4, 2, 5, 3, 4, 2. That's measure 1. I'll do that again real close here. 5, 3, 4, 2, 5, 3, 4, 2. That's measure 1. Measure 2, we're simply taking our ring finger that's on the 5th string, 3 frets up, and we're moving it to the 6th string, 3 frets up, and then we're taking our fingers off. What's important when you're making that change is this is the first note of that chord right there, and we have to make sure to be there on time. Let me just play measure 2 for you. It's simply 1 finger on the left hand, and we're picking strings 6, 3, 4, 2. String 6, 3, 4, 2. I hope you're trying this with me. 6, 3, 4, 2, 6, 3, 4, 2. That's measure 2. What I want to do is let's just go ahead and go back and forth between measure 1 and measure 2. 5, 3, 4, 2. 5, 3, 4, 2. Switch that finger over. 6, 3, 4, 2. 6, 3, 4, 2. It's important to make sure that your ring finger on the 6th string, 3 frets up, hits the mark on that the top of that 2nd measure, that first note. Measure 3, we have the A minor 7th chord, and we're plucking strings 5, 3, 4, 2, 5, 3, 4, 2. From the G chord, it's 6, 3, 4, 2, 6, 3, 4, 2, then 5, 3, 4, 2, 5, 3, 4, 2. Measure 4, we have the F sus2 chord. All right, so let's just go ahead and form that chord first. And we're picking some different strings here now. This gets a little tricky with the right hand because what we have to do is we have to take that pattern that we've been doing is we've got to switch this up to strings 4, 2, 3, 1. We're picking with the right hand for the F sus2 chord in measure 4. 4, 2, 3, 1. 4, 2, 3, 1. Once again, this is our first note right here. This is 3 frets up on the 4th string. And we have to make sure that in between the A minor 7th chord that we get to that F chord properly, okay? And that's a little bit of a tricky part, maybe the hardest part of the song. So in between measures 3 and 4, it sounds like this. Let me call out the strings. 5, 3, 4, 2. 5, 3, 4, 2. 4, 2, 3, 1. 4, 2, 3, 1. Measure 5, we have the C chord again. It's just like measure 1. And measure 6 is just like measure 2. Measure 7 is just like measure 1, and so is measure 8. The song really doesn't have anything different in it until you get to measure 21, and that's that D7 sus2 chord. All right, we have reached critical mass here. Lesson number 2 to continue is right over here. Click on that link, and I will see you there. And happy picking. Don't be afraid to go back on this lesson and work things out, okay? Important to review, take things in small sections and all that fun stuff. Happy picking. I'll see you in lesson 2.